Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a spin through the biggest stories in MMA. And on today's episode, RAF, do we have a new player in town when it comes to combat sports outside the UFC? Also, we got a few matchups to announce, along with the cities that will host them. And we're now about 6 months away from the White House card. What exactly are you expecting? We'll cover all that. Hello, everyone. Gorgeous George here on the con, and look at the distinguished panel we have for you today. Goes from MMA Junkie Radio. He's here in Las Vegas. Danny Segura down in the 305. He's in Miami. He was at RAF, so we'll lean into that with him. Nolan King, the Boston shot caller. He is in Beantown. Ken Hathaway, a.k.a. Cold Coffee. He's going to handle the business on the ones and twos in Las Vegas like us. Please like the video. We can worry about subscribing later, but I'll be bugging you. Let's get going, guys. Real American Freestyle Wrestling is really banging out the events. I mean, this was the fifth one since, I think, this August when they launched, so they're really going at it here. RAF 5 took place in Sunrise, Florida, just outside of Miami, and our Danny Segura was there for the event. So let's start with you, sir. What's RAF like? I'm trying my best not to say RFA, the old Resurrection Fighting Alliance. But yeah, Danny, what's it like, man? Can this sport take off?
By the way, I've made that mistake. Somehow the RFA sounds a little better, but yeah, RAF. Honestly, it was a pretty solid event. It was my first one. This is their 5th edition. And obviously, if you've heard of them, it's probably because they've taken some of the MMA names and have them headline some of their events, which that's how they draw the appeal. It's the same as, you know, these jiu-jitsu promotions taking, you know, former champions and etc. and pitting them against each other on the mat. Same thing as BKFC drawing out those big MMA names to draw an audience. It's the same recipe, but they have a high production. They have really good names, not only MMA wise but wrestling wise. I'm not super familiar with the wrestling world, but it seemed like people were very excited about some of those names: world champions, Olympic medalists in wrestling, and yeah, they're having them go against each other. And I very much liked it. I very much enjoyed the product. The pacing was super fast. The matches were fun. They were exciting. And I don't know. I think our AF has a really good thing going for them, and I think there's a place for them in this industry. I think, you know, there's not much wrestling out there as far as like outside of an Olympic cycle or say like world championships or etc. There's nowhere where you could really see like dream matchups like you can in the world of jiu-jitsu. So, you know, you're able to put matchups that otherwise would never happen. You know, athletes across weight classes, athletes across generations, and they're fun. It's an exciting product. Personally, I enjoyed covering it, and as a spectator as well, it was fun to consume. It was good.
Danny, I giggled when you were saying, you know, there's not really a show like this. And it's so true, because pro wrestling is kind of its own thing in sports entertainment. You got the Blue Pigeon facing Tsunami, you know, for the national title or whatever they want to call it. They could make it up at that moment, the hardcore title. And people go nuts over that. And yet I guess it's built around what you covered. That's, you know, that's the actual wrestling that the best in the world compete at. But was it like a packed arena, and does it look like this thing could sustain? What was the feel like? I can't wait for the next one.
I think so. The arena wasn't packed, but they were in a pretty big arena. That's where the Panthers play, formerly known as the BB&T Center. Now it's called the Amaranth Arena. So
big arena then.
Yeah, it was a big arena, but they didn't pack it. They weren't even close. But still, like, the crowd that was there got really into it, was really excited.
Yeah.
And
I thought it was like an Apex arena or something like that.
Huh?
I thought it was like an Apex arena.
No. They went to a whole
Oh boy. Okay.
Big arena. So I think they could have easily gone to like the Hard Rock Live, which is where BKFC hosts their events. I think that would have been a little bit more appropriate. I do think that where they were at in terms of viewing, it is a lot better to view a match at the Amaranth Arena than at the Hard Rock, but just out of capacity, I think it probably makes more sense, probably cheaper too.
Wait a minute. So the Panthers, they don't actually play in Miami where the Heat play. They play in Sunrise next to the.
Yeah,
Like you were telling me, Sunrise is right by the Everglades.
Yes, it's just west of Fort Lauderdale. So you just go 15 minutes west, 20 minutes west towards the Everglades, and they're right there. You can see the Everglades from the arena. That's actually pretty cool. But yeah, the crowd was digging it, and I wrestled in high school for a few years, and it very much reminded me of like a meet. Like you show up, and literally everyone in the crowd is either a former wrestler or a wrestler. Like the kids were all wrestlers. You could tell by they were wearing their team jerseys, their team shirts, the physiques. You could tell a longtime wrestler. So that was kind of interesting to watch. And there isn't like a big culture in wrestling. I mean, it's fairly big, but it's not like MMA or anything like that. But there is such thing as like being passed down through generations, and there's always going to be a tight-knit group that wants to watch wrestling. And now they're having the entertainment aspect mixed into it. I think they got a legit product here.
All right. Nolan, so how about you, man? You probably viewed it like the rest of us, right? Video stream and maybe video highlights that were passed around. What were your thoughts on what you've seen? And to be fair, this is their 5th show, and they're involving our MMA athletes. So I think that's kind of what's helping draw us there. But your thoughts, and is this thing like kind of a winner at the box office? And what I mean by that is traffic on MMA Junkie, for example.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, and I think the audience was definitely interested. It did good numbers for us. I think social media clips did really well, and I think they have a bit of a home run here if they can keep playing their cards right. When this was first pitched, I thought it was maybe just going to go kind of in that pile of maybe outside the box combat sports things that you maybe keep an eye on, but you don't necessarily get invested in. But it's actually been a really nice surprise to see how many people from both the wrestling world and the MMA world have, kind of tuned in and been interested in this. It seems like the athletes like it. I mean, from what I hear, they're compensated pretty well. And they do a good job of getting names that are, like Danny said, it's kind of like the BKFC Bellator Coker era sort of recipe of getting kind of guys that are maybe over the hill to do it. But they also have got guys like Arman going in there and doing a crossover like we saw this past weekend. So I think they've done a good job of picking things that are intriguing, which is hard. I think that even if you look at the possibilities that are being brought up for the future, I know they have Henry Cejudo going coming up here, right? And then there's all kind of, I don't think we'll ever see it, but the idea of like John Jones and DC doing a wrestling match. But I think there's a lot that you can do in this format. The fact that the UFC allows the athletes to do grappling and wrestling competitions also gives them a little bit of a different talent pool to pick from than say like a BKFC or Karate Combat or Dirty Boxing. So I thought it was great. It's interesting. And I think the other thing that people don't necessarily understand is like, there is some overlap between the wrestling and MMA crowds, but I also think they're very different. Like there's a lot of people that just love wrestling and there's a lot of people that just love MMA. So to kind of be able to pull them both together, I think it's impressive, the attention that they've garnered after just 5 events.
Do you think the recipe's there for, I mean, I'm seeing a show almost every month. So I get that's a splash, and we're constant, it makes us constantly talk about it. Maybe there's an overlap because they can start, a rivalry here and there. We'll get into Covington and Nickel in a second. But do you think that's something that they should try and keep up? Or was it just kind of like to start with a bang and then settle in, create mega cards or good cards, maybe 6 times a year?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe 10 to 12 would be, let's see what happens, right? Maybe the intrigue will wear off a little bit, but I think as of now, there would be no reason for them to not do this once a month, right? And particularly where they have a streaming deal, which I know it's kind of obscure, right? I don't know how many people I know had Fox Nation going into, RAF being on there, but it is a legitimate streaming service. So I think they are at the mercy of them as well a little bit here, right? Kind of got to do what brings in the bucks. So I don't know. Once a month isn't outrageous to me.
Because, the late Hulk Hogan was a part of this. So I don't know if there will be any sort of influence from pro wrestling. Colby Covington got into a little bit of character, as he was picking on Bo Nickel pre and post fight. But what do you think? You want to keep it raw, and wrestling, right? Like we see in the Olympics, or do you want some of that to bleed over? Because I know you're a big pro wrestling fan too, and there is a draw to some of those antics, that we see on Monday nights.
Totally. I mean, first of all, shout out to the Blue Pigeon. He's one of my favorite wrestlers. He's super cool.
Wasn't that the name of Terry Taylor or something like that?
No, he was the Red Rooster.
Oh, okay. It might have been his rival.
Yeah, probably. Like, I think people underestimate how much of an audience there is for wrestling. I've never understood why March Madness happens at the same time as the basketball tournament.
I heard that.
I get that they piggyback, but I feel like more people would be into it if they kind of waited a little bit. It's actually really, really fun to watch, and I think more kids are getting into it in high school. But sometimes I think maybe there's careful what you wish for too, because a lot of these guys that we have in mixed martial arts, I think it's because there wasn't anywhere to go in the wrestling world. Once you're done with college, and if you're not competing for the Olympics or something, there wasn't very many places to go to make money. And if something like this blows up, I wonder what the effect it'll have on mixed martial arts. Now, what I do like about it is I do like that they kind of carry a little bit of that pro wrestling swag, the entertainment swag, where you take mixed martial artists who have rivalries and put them together. Guys like a Colby Covington. I thought that was brilliant on their part. I think it's brilliant on Colby's part. That's something that where you don't have to really face the music of what's going on in mixed martial arts. You can kind of create almost a new character over here, but I'm kind of down with it. I wouldn't say this is the main course on a weekend, but it's definitely a good appetizer.
That's the question. Is this thing popping because we had nothing else to do? Considering it was a great weekend of NFL football, wild card weekend. I mean, all the games were nail biters except for Nolan's Patriots. They pulled away in the end, but everything else went down to like last second drives and field goals. I don't know. I mean, I kind of like what they're doing. So back to Danny. Danny, what was the crowd more into? Oh, there's Yoel Marrero. Holy cow, silver medalist, Olympic. Or there's Colby Covington, MMA. He makes noise, man. He's already picking on Bo Nickel. What did it seem to captivate the crowd the most? The real hardcore wrestlers, or some of the guys bleeding over from our sport?
I think it was a bit of both. I think for the people present, probably the wrestlers. There was people that frankly, I'm not very in tune with that community, but there were people there that I didn't really know much about, and fans were asking them for photos, and they were really excited for their matches, whereas the MMA guys maybe a little bit not so much. But obviously once you scale that to a broader sense and you add social media to it, streaming, all that, people are tuning in because of the MMA names, right? So there's a mix of both, right? Like, for example, us at MMA Junkie, just to keep it 100, if it was just a pure wrestler versus wrestler type thing, I don't know if I would have gone to cover it, right? But because there was Colby Covington, because there was Luke Rockhold, Joel Romero, Arman Tsarukyan, it made sense. So, I think there's a place for both. I think there's a big following for these wrestlers. And some of them as well, like, have interest in going into MMA down the line. So you start kind of familiarizing yourself with those names. So I would say it's a mix of both.
Mm-hmm. What's a highlight from the event, Danny, that stood out to you?
Man, I know he lost. He got teched. But watching Joel Romero compete every time is just a treat. The guy's 48 years old. He was supposed to compete against Bo Nickel, who was almost 20 years younger, Bo being 29. And he went against Buchanan, who's a very good wrestler, and he's one of the world's best right now. Lost, but man, just watching him compete still at 48, the way that he looks, the aura that he carries, that guy has aura, man. You talk about somebody that walks into a room and everybody kind of like, oh snap, there's Joel Romero. It's him. So watching him compete is always nice. And he lost, but shit, I wish I looked like that now, and I'm 15 years younger than the guy. So
if I'm not mistaken, I think he was a silver medalist at the 2000 Olympics in Sydney or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, that is a long time removed from his best heyday. How about you?
90s, he was competing for world championships, like late 90s.
Yeah. Nolan, how about you, man? What's a highlight that stood out to you from that event?
Yeah, I mean, Bo Bassett is something to behold, man. He's special. For those that don't know, 19-year-old kid still in high school, competing in his high school wrestling season, and on the weekends he goes and he wrestles against guys that have already gone through the college ranks, who have competed at the world level, and he bodies them. Essentially, is kind of the summary of Bo Bassett. And so he's the future of wrestling, but he's super smart. He's done a good job of promoting himself on social media, building a big following, kind of being somebody that is going to be a star in 2026, 2027, 2028, when he'll ultimately go for the Olympics. So it will be interesting to see his career unfold. And I spoke with him last week, and it was kind of interesting because I think a lot of times when you interview wrestlers, right, as MMA Junkie, we always ask the question of like, oh, do you want to go to the UFC, blah, blah, blah. But it was actually his team actually reached out and said, hey, he wants to tell people he's interested in MMA right now. Like, this was to start the interview before I hadn't reached out or anything. So I do think either A, he's doing a very good job of expanding his audience to know who he is by saying the right things, or B, he actually is somebody that is going to maybe a decade from now even pursue MMA. I know he's aligned himself with some people in the industry that have done, handled wrestlers that have turned into MMA fighters. He was down at Kill Cliff last week. So I'm excited not only to see his wrestling career unfold, because I think he is a freak, but also to see how, if this MMA thing ever materializes, because there's no financial incentive for him to do it right now. Like, the guy will make tons of money sticking around in the wrestling world, but who knows? Maybe the competitive drive will be there still.
Anybody who's half-assing listening to our show while working and they heard Everglades and Bo Bassett, they must think we're talking like Swamp Hunter show or something like that.
Mhm.
He's in high school right now.
He's in high school right now. I believe he reclassed.
An old age, right? 19. I don't think I've ever heard of a 19.
Yeah, so I think there was something during. I think it was during COVID. Maybe wrestling people in the chat can correct me, but I believe he had the option. Like, athletes had the option to reclass, so they could do like an extra year of high school competition. So I think that's what this is. But he's going to Virginia Tech next year. So
is he?
Yep.
All right, goes. You almost went to Virginia Tech, no?
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't. That was not a good year to go.
They had a horrific shooting the year that Goes was going to go. I don't know if anyone remembers, like 20 years ago. But all right, Goes, give me a highlight for you.
You know what? I like that an MMA guy kind of represented. Arman Tsarukyan, I thought looked pretty good. I liked his energy. I think people are starting to catch on to this guy a little bit. I think he could be charismatic when he wants to be. It's good for him to stay sharp, considering he's in the doghouse. So I really hope he becomes a regular there. But I had fun watching him.
No more headbutting, Arman.
Nope.
We know that cost you. Go out there and have fun and do your thing. And boy, whatever he's getting his hands on, he's winning. He's whooping ass,
dominating
where he's at. He beat a 4-time All-American. Look, to be fair, Lance Palmer's now 38 years old, so he's probably almost 2 decades removed from his highest level of competition, which would have been NC2A, and I think he was a 4-time All-American and a finalist against Brett Metcalf in his senior year. So all respect to him. Did his thing at PFL, won a belt, but maybe 2. But yeah, youth, man, has a lot to do with this too. But still, yeah, I love the way they are cross promoting or matchmaking legends versus collegiate legends versus up and comers. You know, you got the high school kid, you got the MMA guys, all around. Really, really good stuff there. Let's get to Covington and Nickel, Danny. How spicy is this thing? It was addressed pre-fight. It was a 2-on-1 with Rockhold and Covington going at Nickel, them flexing the fact that they got belts in MMA and they've succeeded on the world stage. Obviously not taking away anything from what Nickel's done on the collegiate stage, but either way, man, there's something brewing here, in my opinion.
Yeah, I actually think it might have started with an interview we did here at MMA Junkie. I remember at the time I spoke to Bo Nickel, who hadn't fought in MMA, but he was working alongside Jorge Masvidal to train for Colby Covington. So he was kind of like the wrestling coach. So I had interviewed him and asked him, same question that Nolan just brought up, what we do with high-level wrestlers. When are you going to go to MMA? And also, what do you think of Jorge, his wrestling? What do you think of Colby's wrestling? And he said something along the lines of like, yeah, no, Colby's wrestling is not that great, or I'm not that impressed. But obviously, Bo's standard is quite high, so hard to be impressed. It might have started with that. I don't know, but I was surprised at how intense it got. They were going at it at the presser. I was also surprised that Luke Rockhold stepped in there and backed up Colby, and then it was like a 2-on-1. And unfortunately for Bo, he might not be as well versed as them. You know, he might not have as many reps, and also he did not have a mic, so it was just bad optics. It just looked like he was just constantly getting pestered by these two. And then Bo called them out for a wrestling match, or an MMA fight at the White House, and Colby did Colby and declined and continued to talk smack. So I don't know if this is gonna result into a fight. I wouldn't think so, given the difference in weight classes. But maybe in a wrestling match, I think he could say no right now. But that's just kind of to like stiff arm him and put him down. But maybe down the line, I can see those two going at it in wrestling.
And his line was he wants GSP.
Mhm.
Yes, he called out George St. Pierre. He's
But-
also open.
Go ahead.
He's also open to facing Kamaru Usman or Bilal Muhammad, who both have called him out for RAF.
Okay. But he kind of put himself in a corner because he said, hey, I feel good. He bragged about Luke being way bigger than him. He liked himself at middleweight and maybe he could compete there. And that's where Nickel competes.
Yeah.
So that could be something that could happen over there as well. What do you think, Nolan, man? Is that a matchup that needs to be made? Like, is that their, I mean, maybe it's too early to say, but like a Tito Chuck thing that's starting out over there for him?
I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt that all went down, right? And I think for Colby, like, nobody's really interested in seeing him fight. So this could be a way for people to kind of get excited about him again, because he does have wrestling abilities. He went in there, you know, he beat Luke Rockhold. So yeah, I mean, I think it's the perfect fight. You know, would Bo do it? Would they be able to get the numbers right? Like, I think there's a whole negotiation side to things as well, as we saw with kind of the whole weigh-in thing that went down, and then Bo ultimately deciding not to fight. So, to wrestle. I'm so used to saying fight.
Yeah.
To wrestle, to compete. So yeah, I mean, it's a layup for them. They already have the tape. They have the press conference quotes, and I'm sure people, you know, RAF 6, I think, is already kind of planned out, but maybe 7 or 8, we'll see that go down.
Is Covington, is this his spot, you think? Much like how Mike Perry succeeded over at Bare Knuckle and Kobe's pretty much finishing out his MMA career, it looks like.
I think so. I think it gives him new life. It makes him interesting again. As far as MMA, I mean, I think people would still tune in. It's just not with the way we used to, right? I think it's a little different. And that's where a guy like Bo Nickel would probably come into play and give him a little bit of new life in MMA as well. But yeah, I think this is kind of like the right fit for him. I just don't think he's willing to give up on MMA just yet.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about Covington in the White House. Obviously, he probably started the whole movement of aligning MMA with Trump when it comes to fighters. Dana White has a long-standing relationship with Donald Trump going to the early days of the UFC, but he wanted to bring that belt to Donald Trump. He did. Jorge Masvidal also got real close to the Trump family. And then there's a few other fighters as well. I think McGregor's in business with the son. Who knows? But bring him back to MMA with Covington. Does he need to be on the White House card, in your opinion? Even if the focus is the champions and anything close to a title fight, has he at least earned that, or should he be on a card like that? Sorry.
You know, I don't know, because I would think it would make sense. He's fought in front of the president before, so now it's just more being on that card. I would think they would try and make something happen, but I don't know how much Colby can really argue for this is who I want and this is what I want to do. I think he'd have to play by their rules. Who knows? Maybe just sitting near the president would be fun for him on that night, just being there. The Secret Service, though, I'll tell you one thing. You got Masvidal on those grounds and Colby Covington. You better beef up security.
Well, Danielle's going to go with that next. 305. You know that whole circuit. Should we just throw those two back in there and have them fight each other and two of the president's guys?
Name value, it would be kind of big. And I think it's been long enough where people kind of forgot the way the first fight went down. So
let them chirp at each other while the championship
in your mind. I don't know if that's a matchup that you would necessarily be interested in, the rematch between those two. But they certainly don't like each other. They're both Trump fans, so it kind of makes sense. I would think that Colby fighting at the White House probably makes more sense, period, in general. No, it doesn't matter against who, fits more the bill, American, you know, wrestled in college, whatnot. Easily the biggest Trump supporter as far as like all the fighters on the UFC roster. So I think it would make sense, but also I don't know. There's going to be a lot of eyes on that, right? Like just from, you know, outside of the MMA Junkies and MMA Fightings and all these MMA or sporting sites, like I would assume like, you know, The Guardian will be there, the New York Times will be there, right? Or at least we'll try not, because it dives into the political realm. So I don't know how much the UFC would want to have Covington there, because obviously he says inflammatory stuff, where you can get somebody like Bo Nickel who kind of fits the same bill, but maybe it's a little bit more clean, I guess.
You have to figure out like placement too, because if they're gonna have 5-6 title fights on a card, like Colby Covington's gonna be in the undercard.
I refuse to believe that's the case.
Wraps. What's that?
They'll say it, but there's no way in hell. Trust me, I've
covered three is my limit.
In the early days where they've had like 5-6 title fights. It sucks.
I can do 3. That's my limit, but I honestly think they're gonna try for 3 in case one falls off and they're left with 2. But 5 or 6 is just outrageous. That's gonna take up so much time.
PFL used to do their 6 titles in one night, and I remember some of them were painful, but there was a couple where the fighters just delivered. There was KOs and finishes, and you know, granted, PFL doesn't have the star value that UFC does, but I remember a couple times walking away going, hey, you know, okay, I survived. Nolan, you were kind of grinning. Are you open to Masvidal Covington? Because
no, I just felt like I was watching the start of like a natural disaster, and I have the ability to stop it. And so, no, absolutely not. I do not have any interest in this. The last time we saw it, it was not good. It was not exciting. It was terrible. Jorge looked out of shape. Covington since then has looked terrible. I have no interest in seeing that fight get run back.
But the chirping, because think about it, we have a lot of international champions that aren't going to say much, and it's a fighting game. Look, it's not street fighting. It's not like we're going to walk them to the docks in DC, you know, and stuff's going to go down that way. I mean, but there has to be, I think, that spicy element to it. And if you can get 2 guys that Trump likes to go in there, you know, I don't know. I think it'd be brilliant matchmaking.
I mean, I think that's your RAF wrestling match right there. No, I don't know. For me, it's like, again, it depends on how many fights are going to be on the card. I think regardless of title or not, like, is this going to be like a 12-fight card, or is it going to be like, hey, we're going to do like 5 fights there, and, you know, this is the card. So I think it depends on how much real estate you have to play around with. I also think there's a lot of fighters, and I agree with you, like Covington's been since the start probably the most outspoken, kind of, you know, inserting Donald Trump and Trump stuff into all the interviews and the MAGA hat and all that sort of thing, like indisputably has done that more than anybody else. But I think there are a lot of fighters, like Danny said, like Bo, who can, you know, who's a supporter of him vocally, and that would fit that bill, that would actually be able to, like, who are they going to give Covington? Like Covington getting Buckley kicked in the face would kind of maybe not be what they would want either. So I don't know who you would give Colby that would be a good, I don't know, I guess maybe the Masvidal thing, like you said, but I don't know. You have such a limited amount. I think there's other people you could throw in there and have the fights be a little bit more top of the line.
Let's finish with this. Danny Tsarukyan, back to him. You said he was a star that night. He did look great. I think he won 10-0 right away, called it a night. But at the same time, he had some claims about the UFC protecting Pimlet. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so obviously we talked to him about his win over Lance Palmer and all that, but I think the biggest thing that came out of that was asking an update about on his UFC career and what's going on in the lightweight division and all that. And he was pretty adamant and pretty confident saying that like he's a nightmare matchup for Paddy Pimblett, and what he thinks is going on besides the headbutt, besides him pulling out, which obviously didn't contribute, is that the UFC is protecting Paddy Pimblett, that they want to see him as champion, and they're giving him the easiest matchup possible at the top, and they're maintaining him away from Pimblett in order for him to become champion. Obviously, you got to start there, and then maybe the possibility of Anilia Topuria versus Paddy Pimblett bout. And honestly, all that checks out. It makes sense to me, right? Like I can't really find any other explanation as to why Arman Tsarukyan is not fighting for the interim lightweight belt here, in a couple weeks. There just isn't. Like, sure, you want to bring up the headbutt, you want to bring up the pulling out or whatever, but like how many times we've seen freaking McGregor threw a dolly at a bus and injured people, actually, like took them out of fights. Yet that was used to promote a fight. So I don't think the UFC is this organization that shies away from those moments and doesn't use them to promote their fights. So I'm not buying it. I think it's what he's saying. I think that they want Paddy Pimblett as champion. He's obviously a huge star and sets up a huge matchup. And in order for that to happen, he's got to win. He's got to beat somebody. And I think he's got a better chance at beating Gaethje than beating Arman Tsarukyan.
You're not buying what Dana said, that the head, but him getting almost physical with a fan on a walkout, I think at UFC 300.
Again,
one of those.
We've seen if Arman Tsarukyan was just as big or bigger than Paddy Pimblett, they would use all those things to promote a fight with Gaethje. Oh, look at this, wild guy, whatever, this and that. They did it with McGregor. They did it with Nate Diaz. They did it with Jorge Masvidal, 3-piece on the soda. If you're big enough, that stuff doesn't matter. It comes down to Arman Tsarukyan. Unfortunately, is not.
Let's
bigger
not forget the incident where he didn't fight Islam. Like
that one, I would say that one does hurt. That one does hurt. But look,
that one is there's a big spotlight on that, and all the other things aren't helping. I'm almost wondering if him chirping about Pimblett. I respect it. He speaks his mind.
Yeah.
But if it's not keeping him in that proverbial doghouse.
Well, no, that definitely didn't help his cause. But again, if he was a superstar, that would get brushed under the rug, and it wouldn't matter. He would get booked for a title fight.
Okay, guys.
What else are they going to do, though? He's got to speak up, right? Because the UFC's not doing him any favors. And his last performance, he did a lot of speaking in the cage, right? The way he performed, that was great. Coming over here, being in front of more eyes, performing the way he did. I think he's got to speak up. Like, it can't get any worse. It really can't. You can't ignore him. When a fighter performs that way, you just can't.
When someone just doesn't like you, so anything you do, it's like, and I think he's found his way to be that guy for Dana. I think, I don't know, because I had a feeling that headbutt had something to do with it, because I'm the one that kept saying, look, he weighed in for Oliveira versus Topuria. He messed up Hooker right away. Exciting on the heels of Hamzat and Islam, both wrestling backgrounds, and yet delivering dominant but boring fights. And here Tsarukyan comes in and smashes, but yet why is he still kind of being overlooked, right, guys? And Dana White clarified in a recent interview that that probably, along with everything else, it's every little thing, man, that it's just adding up. So he's just a thorn, I think, in his side.
Maybe.
All right, guys, good stuff. Congrats to RAF, man. They took up 30 minutes of our time here on SBC. We still got 30 minutes to go. Hit the like button. It triggers the algorithm. It helps us a ton. Share with your friends pre and post show or during the show. Let them know this is happening. We do it every Monday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, unpacking the biggest stories in MMA, going over results, looking at the future as well. Right now, the future is January 24th. That'll kick off the Paramount Plus era for the UFC. It's a numbered event. We used to call it a pay-per-view, and there's 2 back-to-back. So we'll definitely get there. We got some MMA fights coming up. Let's go over some of the matchups that have been made, guys. Even though Dana White was in Tahiti on vacation, fights were getting booked by the rest of the team at the UFC. Let's go over them. Nolan, I think we can deduct that Mackenzie Dern might tie up with Zhang Weili next, now that Tatiana Suarez has been booked versus Lupe Godinez, UFC 327, April 11th in Miami. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's very quite possible, right? It's a weird scenario of the champion leaving, vacating their title, and then coming back to get it right away. But I mean, I think that's the easy next move, right? Like, what does Weili do? I don't think she sticks at 125. That didn't go well. We just saw that. This 115, she's probably going to be a heavy favorite. She's going to get a title fight right off the bat, and she's probably going to be, I would pick her to beat Dern. So I think that's a no-brainer, and that might be something that we can deduce out of this matchup, which I'm a big fan of as well. I think this is a good fight.
Yeah, I really like that matchup, and I wonder, and it only occurred to me right now as no one was talking, if Zhang Weili's pulling the plug a little too early. If I'm not mistaken, Rose went up and lost her first fight, right, guys?
Yeah.
And look at her. I think she's 3-1 now or something like that. Mm-hmm. Slowly creeping up into champion talk. I wonder if Zhang Weili would consider that, or if she just likes being at the top, because everyone kept thinking Suarez might be next for Dern. She's booked. I don't know. I'm just using the process of elimination, but I like that matchup. Macy Barber versus Alexa Grasso goes UFC Seattle, March 28th Your thoughts on that matchup? What's at stake? Is this a clear number one, or just they're in the running?
I think they're in the running. Look, it is a rematch, but I think enough time has passed that it doesn't feel that way. Macy's last loss came to Alexa, so I think she has to go out there and prove that she is championship level by beating a former champion. And I think Alexa kind of needs to show us that she's evolved a bit. It's been a couple of years since we've seen Alexa Grasso with a win, right? She had to draw 2 losses, so granted, those have come to badasses, and Macy Barber, that's another badass. So we need to see something out of the two to kind of make us want to put them in that role.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. Well, I mean, now that you say it, it makes sense. Alexa hasn't won in a while, huh?
Yeah.
Well, because the 2 losses and a draw, right? So really,
since
what
she beat Valentina, she hasn't won. Wow.
Yeah,
that's quite a spin she's in. Well, let's talk about that. Danny, you're pretty close with that gym. Are they losing a little bit of their steam? I mean, I know Lopez is kind of part of that, but I've been seeing him a lot in Las Vegas. What do you think, man? You think she can recapture Alexa Grasso, or are her best days done?
She's just in the division has gotten so much better. Like 125, in my opinion, in the women's weight classes is the best division there is in the UFC period in terms of talent, in terms of competitiveness, names, you name it. So that's tough. I mean, we just saw Zhang Wei Li get smoked. Really, there's no other way to put it. And she's amazing in her move up to 125. So, yeah, it's a tough division. Macy Barber makes that division tough as well, along with a few other names. I have this fight very even. I think it's going to be a close decision, probably. I don't see Macy Barber finishing Alexa Grasso. She's super tough, and vice versa, unless there's some sort of freak injury on either side. So I more or less see this as a very competitive decision, and we'll see who comes out with their hand race. But yeah, tough fight. I wouldn't necessarily put anybody as a favorite. I think it's very much a pick-up between them.
Danny, I'm sticking with you. Daniel Zellhuber's got a fight in Mexico. They just announced that one against King Green. 2 pretty big names. King Green's been around way longer, so he's probably the bigger name of the two, but Zellhuber's a Mexican. In fact, I thought Zellhuber was going to be the next part of the next wave after Moreno, Yair, Alexa Grasso. He suffered a loss, I think, to Michael Johnson, if I'm not mistaken. But what do you think, man? Can this guy recapture and get on a roll and maybe become one of Mexico's next stars?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to find out with this matchup. The UFC sees potential in this kid, and they've been kind of trying to launch him for some time, but he hasn't really taken off yet. Now, it's not too late to say, hey, it's not going to work out. Let's just stop investing in him. No, I think the UFC is making the right decision by giving him a veteran with a good name and putting him in his home city, because he's from Mexico City. So they're doing well here. But this is it. Like if Zellhuber wants to be somebody big in the promotion and be considered this rising contender, he's got to get past Green. They were hoping, I guess, the UFC would never come out and outright say this, but that was kind of like the same dynamic with the Michael Johnson fight, a veteran, good name, but unfortunately lost the decision in that fight. And they're still trying to capitalize on that fight of the year that he gave us with Esteban Ribovics at Noche UFC. I don't know if it was the first or the second one. It was the second one, I think. And yeah, the kid's got tons of potential. You talk to his coaches, they're like, yeah, this guy is amazing. But we've yet to see that fully evolve in the octagon. So this is it. I think this is a great opportunity, and I expect this to be his homecoming. But in theory, let's see what happens.
Because you remember about a dozen years ago, I don't know why I said it like that, 12 years ago, when Ali Abdelaziz would walk in with Dan Ige, who was kind of his assistant as a manager, but yet a fighter. Mm-hmm. And he was looking to get in the UFC. He came through Dana White Contender Series. He was the young guy, right? And then he started spoiling some parties. Well, guess what? He's got Melquizael Costa up next. And he was, I think, our under the radar fighter winner of the year. So now he's the veteran hosting the young guy. Talk about that matchup.
Yeah, what a flip, really, when you think about it. I like Dan Ige. I think he's very, very tough, but Costa's mean. That guy is the future, and you can kind of tell what they're doing with the matchmaking, like as Danny alluded in the other matchup. It's kind of the same thing here. I think Ige needs a good game plan, but more than anything, I feel like he needs a solid plan B. And sometimes I don't think we've seen the plan B come out of him. He's going to need it in this type of fight because Costa, to me, I think that kid has a very, very bright future.
All right, Nolan, the last matchup we want to talk about, I hope you don't think it's a bunch of malarkey, but it's important. We should cover it. Quinlan Salkeld against Jamie Malarkey at UFC 325. It's in Australia. Your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, Quillen was one of the breakthrough fighters, I think, of last year on many of our cards, on our ballots for the end of the year voting. Came in, had a quick knockout, won a decision, and then had that awesome head kick against Nasrat Haqparast to top things off. So somebody that people are really excited about. And I know he was supposed to fight on this card. And now we have Jamie Malarkey stepping in. So Malarkey, man, I mean, I feel like he's the guy the UFC goes to when there's somebody that they have that nobody's really signed up to fight. Like I know he fought Houfi, he fought Muhammad Naimov when he had some heat. He fought Jalen Turner back in the day before Turner kind of had an ascent up the ladder. So, and Francisco Prado. So it's going to be a fight where hands are thrown. Like I think there's not going to be a whole lot of defense. It's just a matter of, can Malarkey hold up against these heavy strikes that Quillen has? And I honestly, I don't think he can. But I think that also speaks to how good that Quillen is and that the UFC has something special with him at 155.
Who's your early lean, guys? Salkeld and Malarkey. Nolan?
Salkeld.
Goes?
Salkeld.
Danny?
Same.
Ige versus Costa. Danny, in Houston, this takes place. February 21st. Early lean.
I'm going to go Costa, but that's a tough one.
All right, Goes?
I'm going to go Ige, but it's very, very close.
I like seeing Danny's reaction because at the same time, I think he's thinking odds and stuff, matchup. Nolan, how about you, man? Who do you like?
Man,
you got to be the tiebreaker.
You put me in the tiebreaker spot here. I don't like this. I'm gonna lean with Costa. I think he's been looking really, really good recently. I think he's leveled up. I think we've seen him get a lot better quickly. So if that continues, I think he'll get it done.
Zellhuber versus Green. Goes.
Ooh, traditional boxing against controlled chaos. I'm going to go with the traditional boxing, Zellhuber.
Danny.
Said Hoover as well.
Nolan.
Zellhuber.
Ooh, wait till King Green hears this, guys. He's going to come at you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
we love King Green around here.
Hey, George, who do you like in that fight, by the way?
I think Zellhuber's got something to prove to me because I really thought this guy was the next second coming.
Yeah.
And the Ribovics fight was awesome, man. And I thought his bounce back would be Johnson. So
Johnson took him to school too.
I almost feel like King Green has a lot of what Michael Johnson. He might not. He's a tad slower than Michael Johnson, but he still has some speed. And so now Zellhuber has to prove me wrong. I'm going to go with King Green. So Caller. All right, go. But that's my early lean. I might switch. Who knows? I forgot this one. Walter Walker and Marcin Tybura. So we'll just talk about it real quick. It's in Seattle. I like the matchup. Walker, I think, is a guy that can become not a superstar, but just a kind of a big name for the UFC, almost like the ground version of what Derek Lewis does on the feet. Walter Walker. So I'm leaning towards him. I like the matchup. Maybe he does it by heel hook again. He's really got a secret recipe going on there. Who do you like, Nolan, in that one?
I'm gonna go with Walker, but I also think Tybura is one of those guys that even when he loses two, like he's just, if you can get through him, you're going towards the top of the division. So I'm gonna lean with Walker, but I wouldn't be shocked if Tybura kind of ruins the party.
Goes?
I agree with Nolan, but I'm gonna go with Walker.
But by heel hook, guys?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
What else am I gonna pick?
Walker, but Tybura's your fixed top 10 heavyweight. If you get past him, like Nolan said, you're onto big things. And I do kind of wonder if that's because Walter Walker has been fighting, not so great opposition. This is definitely a different caliber, and Tybura is a very good grappler. So very, very tough one. I'm going to go with Walker, but I might change my pick as the fight gets closer. We'll see.
Danny, give me two in a row. Barber and Grasso, and Godinez and Suarez. Who do you got in that one?
Ooh, all these matchups are so competitive. I'm going to go Grasso decision, but I'm not super confident in that. And then I'm going to go Lupi Godinez. That one I feel fairly comfortable in picking. She's been looking good. Tatiana Suarez lately has not.
Wow, you're going with Godinez, huh?
Mm-hmm. She should probably be the favorite entering. I'd be surprised.
Stop it, Danny. Really?
Am I
Tatiana's only
crazy?
lost one time.
Huh?
Tatiana's only lost one time.
Well, she was inactive for like in a long time, but she didn't look good at all in that loss. And then she fought Amanda Lemush and she won, but looked not great.
All right. Well, I like Suarez
Really?
by decision, but I do like Barber by TKO stoppage on the ground. Goes. How about you?
Ooh, I like Barber, and I think Suarez has been making some adjustments, so I like her in that Lupe Godinez fight.
Yeah. How about you, Nolan? Finish off.
Yeah, I'm going to say Barber by decision, and I'm going to say Suarez by decision.
Whoa. That's okay. I'm not surprised about the Barber pick. I might lean that way when the fight gets closer. It's very, but you guys have not seen, I think Tatiana has not looked great in some time.
We could say the same about Grasso.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Let's look ahead.
Luke? She's not fighting Grasso. She's fighting Luke.
No, I'm just saying, applying the same logic. I mean, Barber's on a 7-fight win streak, and Grasso has not looked that great since her title days. Let's look ahead, guys. We'll finish off with this. Ghost Stradamus, I'm going to go with you first. Since the year's just started, let's put some of our names on some predictions, and then we'll circle back in 12 months or so and see how dumb we were, or perhaps we are good at predicting the future. Goes, who is the champion most likely to keep their belt? We kind of did this as a staff where we all picked a fighter, and it was an article that went up, but just like, the feed only has a certain lifeline, and here we're reviving it a little. So who was your choice, or have you changed your mind, or do you even have a second name? Go ahead.
I feel like all of these questions in a way are trick questions, because you have to kind of take in consideration outside factors. The UFC doesn't really, you're not assured that the number 1 contender and the number 2 contender, they'll go back to back. You never really know. So playing out some formulas, strength of schedule, right? How often do these fighters fight? I'm going to go with Khamzat Chimaev, just because he hasn't fought more than twice since 2020 in the UFC. So it's one less fight I have to worry about. I think DDP's out of the equation. He just doesn't seem like he'll be back, I think, in that time frame. And the outside factor is, I think Khamzat's still improving. So he's making up ground. I think he will be my safest bet to keep his belt.
How about you, Nolan?
Respect on Fluffy's name, man. That's all I gotta say.
That's a scary matchup. No, don't get me wrong. But if it happens, right, Danny? Because you never know. You never know what direction they go. Maybe the first one's Imavov, and then maybe they do go DDP. You just never know with these guys.
I think both are going to be tough for the champ. But all right, let's go with Nolan next.
Yeah, I mean, I went with Chimaev as well for the story we did for Junkie. Not to say that there aren't tough tests. I just think stylistically there's a lot of favorable matchups. I know Hernandez is definitely the one that would probably be the most interesting. But the other thing too is like his inactivity, Chimaev, right? Like there's a chance we just see him once this year. And I think that's a little bit different than some of the other champions, right? Where they're probably all defend or try to defend twice. So I think Valentina is an easy answer too. You could make an argument Makhachev as well, but I'm going to go with Chimaev just based on infrequency of fighting and the fact that I would pick him confidently against anybody that's in the top, whatever, anybody really at this point.
Big shout out to Fresh Melon Juice and the Brian John in the chat. Sky Vizen, L Daddy as well. Josh Hart's chiming in. He says Fluffy will end the year as middleweight champion. Danny Segura, ahora tú.
I'm gonna go with Islam. Again, doesn't fight very frequent, and he's just so good. He's just so good. And I have a feeling, I hope this is not the case, but I have a feeling he is gonna end up fighting Kamaru Usman because that's a big fight, sellable. Kamaru Usman sort of last dance, right? I don't see him going back to the line and taking on a Shafkat or a Michael Morales. So I see that fight happening, and I'm picking Islam to win it. So for me, Islam Makhachev still champion by the end of the year.
Man, both those guys have killers waiting for them. But yeah, let's hope they at least have 2 title defenses this year. I'm going head on as well. Valentina, I know she's 38, but that's who I picked. And I don't care that Blanchfield's a beast on the ground and that Natalia Silva is a beast on the feet. Yes, I'm saying I think Natalia Silva is going to beat Rose Namajunas, but I think she can still beat them both. I think she's going to inch closer to joining Demetrius Johnson, Anderson Silva, and John Jones in the double-digit title defense club, perhaps surpassing them one day. She's just so dedicated to her craft. I'm going to go with her. Next one up. Well, you have to go a little bit quicker on this one, guys. Which champion is less likely to defend their belt? Goes.
I think Mackenzie Dern. I feel like Zhang Weili will come back, and when she comes back, she ain't gonna be happy.
Danny.
Yeah, Mackenzie Dern. I think she's the most vulnerable champion right now.
Nolan.
That is the correct answer. And if she somehow beats Zhang Weili, the UFC has a nice sound clip of us three saying this about how people doubted her. So we'll keep it quick, 20 seconds.
Dude, I think Dern can beat her.
What?
Yeah.
She could, but
I think she
George
can,
wants to look like a hero on the promo now.
No, I wish he wouldn't have said that in a way, but
he heard Nolan bring up that UFC special.
Ask Goes when we had that assignment, right? Goes, didn't I mention Dern was going to be one of mine, and then I went with Valentina because Simon wound up going with whoever he wound up choosing, but I was really leaning towards Dern. Zhang Weili is a beast. I've seen her in person. Hell of a handshake, a specimen.
Yeah.
But man, she just gets lost out there in certain fights that if she's not controlling from the beginning, you know, she's kind of a, God, I hate to say this, like a bit of a front runner. Then all of a sudden she's more vulnerable. But whatever, I don't want to attack the former champ because she was really, really nice the day that I met her at the UFC Fan Expo. Name a contender that will finish 2026 as champion, Danny.
Oh man, this is a tough one, but I'm gonna go with Michael Morales. I'm high on him, man. I'm high on him, and I think the UFC is too. We've seen Dana White talk well about him, so not only is he already in a good position sporting wise, but also with the company. I can see the UFC pushing this guy and him getting a shot. And actually, no, I'll take that back because I said Islam, so that doesn't make sense.
That's okay.
Oof.
Danny's covering both of his sides.
That's all right, because you never know what the UFC is going to do, what direction they're going to go.
Yeah, no, that's right. No. But look, Islam fights him, and I think I would have his favorite Islam, obviously. But I think
interim championship. There you go.
Yeah, maybe. Actually, that's very plausible.
We'll come back to you, Danny. Think about it. Goes. How about you?
Come back to me. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go outside the box, and certain things have to happen for this to happen. But if Shavkat comes back, I think he could be a tough matchup.
Nolan?
I mean, I think Zhang Weili seems like the cheat code here. Yeah, that would be my pick.
Someone wants to be on the UFC's highlight. All right, I'm gonna go with Fluffy. That was mentioned there. I mean, was it? No, Dwayne disagrees. He says Fluffy's not even going to beat Strickland. Well, Strickland has. I mean, that's gonna be a good fight too. But I think Fluffy can be a world champion, guys. I love his cardio, and he's tenacious with the grappling and the striking, and he's fearless, man. He does not mind getting hit one bit. He does get rocked. That scares me a little, but he hasn't been put down. So that's Danny's as well. We'll keep going here. Name an unranked fighter that will finish 2026 ranked. Goes.
I think an easy one's probably Bo Nickel, just because he gets a little help. But I'm gonna go away from that. I'm actually gonna go with Malcolm Wellmaker. I think he has some talent. He just needs to tighten some screws. We just spoke to him, and he seems like he's doing all the good adjustments in a career that you need to do after a loss. So I think he can turn it around and get ranked by the end of the year.
All right, I'm going to go with the guy that just beat him. And no disrespect to Wellmaker. We just had a great interview with him, and all of our interviews are housed on the MMA Junkie YouTube channel. So that's why you should subscribe. It's free. You just click subscribe, click like, thumbs up, all that stuff. We handle the rest. It's the best deal in town, and it really helps us out a ton. But yeah, we just talked about. I like what's his name? Ethan Ewing. Was that his name? I think that guy's dope. I think both guys are going to be ranked fighters there. So I'll go with the other side. Ewing, Danny, you. What do you like?
I'll go with two. One should already be in the rankings, but how anybody said it was, I think, dude is on a streak. I think his streak merits being already in the rankings. Just one more win, he's in there, and I think he's capable of doing that. And the second one will be Joel Alvarez at 170 pounds.
We haven't heard his name in a while, but that's a good one. I like that one. How about you, Nolan?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the classic hipster pick, but Abdul Rahman Yakayev from Turkey.
Man.
He's got 2 UFC fights. He fought in August and November, and he won them both in 30 seconds. So light heavyweight, you obviously have a quick track. If he's going to be competitive, fight frequently, which obviously he is, then I think he's somebody the UFC will ride because he's super exciting. I think he's got 7 finishes in 8 fights and has looked great through Contender and then the 2 UFC fights that he had.
All right. Most likely to lose their undefeated record. This can be UFC or PFL. Danny.
Ooh, this one, I'm going to rock you guys with this one, but I'm going to go Lerone Murphy.
Ooh, that's right. He's got the one draw, but he is technically undefeated.
He's undefeated, but he's bound to get like, and don't get me wrong, Aaron Pico is a good fighter, and he's been fighting good fighters, but I don't think he's really fought the very elite, the very top 5 of the weight class. And I think whether it's against a Diego Lopez or a Volkanovski or an Evloev, I would have him not as favorite in any of those matchups. So I'm going to go with him. And he's bound for a big fight. So
okay. And he hasn't been booked yet?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. Goes?
This dude's undefeated in the UFC, arguably. Paddy Pimblett. I feel like he's a great kid. I think he's doing all the good things, but there are monsters waiting for him. If he gets past Gaethje, Ilya, Arman, that's asking a lot out of somebody. I don't think he can do that.
Nolan.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 that were on my brain just got taken. So I am going to go with Pimblett, maybe perhaps because my pick is Gaethje. So I guess that would be an easy one.
Okay.
I don't feel overly confident
in
in that pick either, but I think given that I'm picking him, then that would be my pick.
All right, just to clarify, he is undefeated in the UFC, not overall. I think he's got 3 losses.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. And then so yeah, you guys are flipping the script on me. I'm gonna flip it as well. I think guys, I don't think Khamzat is gonna get out of beating Fluffy and Ivanbov. I'm gonna be more positive. I think he can fight them both. Yes, I know that Ramadan presents a challenge for some fighters where for like 3 months they just don't get booked. But at some point, I think he will fight, and he's got to fight them both. But I don't think he can get past both. So I'm just going to go with Khamzat Chimaev. I've seen some close calls with Burns and Usman, and these guys are obviously, peak fighters. Man, I don't know. That's just what I think. It's really hard to be a champion, and sometimes Khamzat, if he's not dominating, I mean, DDP made it look so easy for him, but he has been stuffed before, and if he is, he's very vulnerable. All right, next up, male fight of the year prediction for 2026. Nolan.
Man, it's so tough. I'm gonna say Islam, man. I'm gonna say he's gonna do it again. I know he was on a lot of people's ballots this year. Him and Merab were very neck and neck, but I look at like Islam would have won it if there weren't things to discredit each of those victories that he had last year, right? Like he had Moicano, and then you could argue like Jack was maybe like a good style matchup, but going into the welterweight division where right now it's just lions across the board. If he fights twice this year and he beats 2 of these guys, pick like any of the names in the top 10, like I think that's pretty damn impressive to say like, okay, not only am I the welterweight champion now, but I'm like clearly the best welterweight out of this pool against big dudes, Michael Morales, Shavkat, different styles. So I do think he'll be the champion at the end of the year, and that would mean he'd probably have to get through 2 of those guys. So I'm going to go with him.
Danny?
Same, Islam. I think he remains champion, and he's going to have to beat some really tough guys in the process, and that'll be enough for him to be male fighter of the year.
Goes, give me your male fight of the year and female fight of the year.
I feel like somebody's going to get Islam. Those are some tough cats there. So I'm going to stick with my guy, Khamzat. I think he can pull it off. Female, like I said, I feel like Zhang Weili goes back. She's angry. And I think she, on top of getting her belt back, adds some notches.
Okay. I'm going to go with Pimblett. No, I'm just kidding.
Whoa.
No, I really like Paddy Pimblett, but Topuria is a beast. And I think he's going to come back with a vengeance eventually. I'm going to go with Fluffy because I think he's going to win in Houston, and then I think he's going to win the title. And because he likes to stay active, he might even go 3-0. For my female fight of the year, I'm still going to ride with Val because she's got tough matchups, people that are clear number 1 contenders, so they're deserving to be there. The female fight of the year for you, Danny?
I'm going to go with Kayla Harrison. Great pick with Valentina, though. I feel like that is the safest option because she's always in the run-in, but I think Kayla's going to beat Amanda Nunes, and unlike last year, I do think she's going to fight more than once. So I see her either beating Valentina if she were to go up, or beating Nunes in a rematch, or beating whoever the next contender is up at 135 pounds for the ladies division. So I'm going to go with Kayla Harrison. This is her year.
All right, Danny also turning in an early staff pick for UFC 324. Nolan, how about you, man? Female fight of the year. We need.
It's tough, right? Because I do think the winner of Amanda and Kayla will have a lot more on their resume than, say, like Valentina, if she whoever she obviously defends against the first fight of her 2026 campaign. But I'm going to play it safe, man. I think Valentina, like George, I think you just kind of pushed me over the line there. She's in a different spot than I think she's been in different years, where it does seem like there are some people with momentum in the division, right? Like we've got Erin Blanchfield, we have, Natalia Silva, we have Macy Barber if she gets through Grasso. Like those are fighters that have established themselves as being deserving of getting a crack. So I'm gonna go with Valentina.
We'll finish up with this, guys. We'll make it quick. What's your one wish for 2026? Or if you have to, say them quickly. Danny.
This wish has been present almost every year whenever I do these type of shows. And it's for promotions outside of the UFC to do well, for them to thrive. Whether this also includes like a BKFC and really any other promotion outside of the UFC. Not that I'm wishing bad on the UFC, not at all. I want the UFC to do very, very well because that's the bulk of the MMA that we cover. But it just seems to me that with my decade plus covering the sport, each year there's less and less and less of the outside promotions. And I don't necessarily know if that's good, one, for the fighters, and that's good for us if we just solely rely on covering one promotion. So, PFL, whatever may come next. Hell, I will even wish luck to GFL if that's even still a thing. But for MMA as a whole, not just only UFC to do well.
GFL, wow, they fell off, man. All right, Goes, how about you?
Dakota Ditcheva to find her way to the UFC.
That's a really good one.
I'd love to see her.
Against my wish, Goes. What the hell?
Yeah. And I always root for this, but a stadium show.
That would almost change a few of my picks because I think Dakota's the truth, man. Nolan?
My wish is for Paramount to bump these start times down for the fight nights, right? we got the extra hour on the pay-per-views, 9:00, and now the schedule on UFC.com has populated the fight nights to start at 8 and 9 respectively for the first batch here. So we've the MMA gods have giveth and taketh from our brain cells and sleep schedule. So I'm hoping they can give us a little bit more.
Yeah. All right. Anshul Jubilee's gas station says Ilya versus Islam is his wish. Fresh Melon Juice in the chat says DC to replace Dana as UFC boss. That's his wish. Dwayne 9486 says Hamby versus Tuivasa. That's his wish. And if you guys have wishes, leave them in the chat or leave them below in the comments, and I'll read the best ones on next week's SBC. Mine's just a damn stadium show here in Las Vegas. We've had it for boxing with Canelo versus Crawford. We have WWE. In fact, WWE thought it was so good, they're coming back this year. Why can't the UFC match those guys? They're all in bed together. Come on, Dana. Enough already. We're not saying every numbered event should be in a stadium. Just every once in a while. And you got one in your backyard, so you can't use the excuse production's tough. In Ireland, we can only go to a certain start time. In Abu Dhabi, I remember it was like there might be a sandstorm. There's nothing here. It's covered. Even in the summer, we have the temperature controlled, and it's a 10-minute drive from you. Your production team's here. What are you waiting for, stupid? Get it going. Anyways, we're out. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for always tuning in. We'll see you next Monday for the next Spinning Back Clique. Go out and be a champion.